Hey VC, it's Jonathan. How's everybody doing today? Hope everyone's doing really well. It's another beautiful day here in Maine. We're finally getting a real spring. We haven't usually goes from too cold in the winter to too hot in the summer, and we never get a spring. This year, it's been just beautiful weather outside, nice and cool, sunny, clear, just great. People are getting inoculated, getting vaccinated. I know we had, I think, over 60% of our population has already been vaccinated, so things are starting to open up. Starting to be music again. I read that the Wilco is coming to Portland in August, so I really want to go see them. In July, we have the North Atlantic Blues Festival up in Rockland, Maine, which is 2 days of blues, so I'm definitely going there this year. And things are starting to open up, so it's good. If you're looking for a place to come visit, come up to Maine. Nothing's better than Maine in the summertime, except maybe Maine in the fall. Okay. We're doing today's video is the folk music tag. About a week or two ago, Mazzy did a video on folk music in Greenwich Village in the 60s, and that's really where I grew up. I mean, I didn't grow up in the village, but I might as well have. I lived about an hour north of the city, and in like 1964, when I was 14, 15 years old, we take the bus into New York City, and we take the subway down to Greenwich Village and spend all day hanging out in Greenwich Village. We go to the bookstore, the record shop, the poster store. There was a button shop that sold buttons. We go to Washington Square Park and hear the people playing guitars. That's where I saw Ramblin' Jack Elliott hanging out in Washington Square Park. Everybody was hanging out there and playing music. There was fiddles and guitars and banjos, and spent all day hanging out in Greenwich Village. As it got darker, we'd finally go grab a slice of pizza and then head over to the Gaslight. And the Gaslight was an all ages club that didn't serve alcohol, so everyone was allowed in. So we'd go in there. I think it was like $1.25 to get in, and you had to have one drink minimum. So they had like I don't know, ice cream soda, I remember, or whatever, and we'd sit there and nurse that the whole show. And that's where we saw Dave Van Ronk and Phil Oakes and Pat Skye, Tom Paxton, John Lee Hooker, Mississippi John Hurt, the Greenbrier Boys, etc., etc. So lots of folk music there. For some reason, that was our spot. I mean, we never went to the Night Owl, which was right around the corner, or Cafe Bazaar, we went to Gertie's Folk City a couple times. But the Gaslight was really our home. That's where we'd hang out mostly. Good times. Good time to be young. Anyway, before I get off on more tangents, let's start with this folk tag 2021. The first question is, show a very early folk album, pre-1950s. Okay, I gotta say, before we start, this whole thing of categories really gets my goat. I mean, folk music, country music, bluegrass, old-timey music, jug band music, it's all folk music to me. It's all folk music. That's why this whole thing of rock, is it rhythm and blues? Is it rock? Is it soul? Is it heavy metal? It's all rock. It's all rock and roll. So it's all folk music. Or as Leadbelly said once, it's got to be folk music. I never heard a horse sing it. Okay, first one is show an early folk album pre-1950s. So I'm going with Jimmie Rodgers, the Singin' Brakeman. This was released in the 60s. But it was recorded 1929, 1930s, all the way through the 30s. It's sort of they do a little conceit on the album, sort of like Jimmie Rodgers visiting the Carter family. And Mother Maybell's there, and he talks to them, and they sing songs, etc. But the songs are great. A really wonderful album. Jimmie Rodgers, My Time Ain't Long. Great folk music. Next one says, show an archival folk album or a field recording. Well, I'm going with this one. I think I've shown this before, but I'll show it again. And it's the Woody Guthrie box set. And it's Library of Congress recordings, 3 hours of songs and conversations recorded by Alan Lomax. Basically, Alan Lomax will sit there with Woody and say, oh, when you were growing up in Oklahoma, did they have music around? Oh, yeah, we used to go to the barn dances, and what kind of songs did they sing? So Woody would sing a song from that era. And it's 3 hours of him talking about his life and singing music from his time. And it is a great, great album. I definitely recommend this one. Woody Guthrie, Library of Congress recordings with Alan Lomax. Show a recent folk album. I went with the great John Prine. Last John Prine album, Tree of Forgiveness. Fantastic record. He will be surely missed by everybody. A great songwriter, great singer-songwriter. John Prine, Tree of Forgiveness. Show your favorite folk album, man. I mean, you know, Talk to Me Tomorrow will be something else, and yesterday was probably something else. But today, I decided to go with this one because no one showed him yet, and that's Skye, or Patrick Skye. And this is his album, Through a Window. This is re-recordings of some of his older stuff, and it's just great. As a tip of the hat to Mazzy, the first song on this album is San Francisco Bay Blues. He also does Ramblin' Boy by Tom Paxton, A Separation Blues, Blown in the Wind, Don't Think Twice, Ballad of Ira Hayes, Good Night Irene, Freight Train. Great, great album. Pat Skye was part of that 60s folk revival in Greenwich Village, etc. He produced the first Mississippi John Hurt album. There's a picture of him and Mississippi John Hurt together. Patrick Skye. I dropped my iPad that will have all the questions on it. Sorry about that. Let me bring that back up. I'll leave it here for now. Favorite folk album, Woman. I'm going with one of my favorites. Headley showed her, but I'm showing it again. And it's Kate Wolfe. And this is her album, Give Yourself to Love. Recorded live, 1982, 83, California. Gone much too soon. Died much too young. If you don't know Kate, I would urge you to check out any of her albums. Fantastic, just an amazing voice, a great singer-songwriter. Kate Wolfe. Next one is show a folk album, duo or trio. I'm going with Richard and Mimi Farina. I don't know if you know them, but Mimi is Joan Baez's sister, and Richard was a singer-songwriter and novelist. They hung out a lot with Dylan and Joan Baez in the early 60s. Richard wrote a book called Been Down So Long, Looks Like Up to Me. And the night of the book release in California, he hopped on a motorcycle and left the book release party and was killed in a motorcycle accident that same night. I think he was 28 years old, and I think 1965 or 66, something like that. A shame, a real shame. But this is a wonderful album. They do a lot of their own, most of their own songs. Swallow Song, Sellout Agitation Waltz, Mainline Prosperity Blues, House on American Activity Blues, Activity Dream, Children of Darkness. Just a beautiful, beautiful album. There's a great compilation, The Best of Mimi and Richard Farina. Definitely urge you to check it out. Great stuff. Next one, pick a group, folk group. This group really was looked down upon by most of the folk purists because they were too commercial and too successful. But for me, they're one of the first groups I ever listened to. When I was a kid at summer camp, one of the counselors had this album. He used to play it all the time. He played guitar and learned how to play guitar from this album. And it's the very famous, the Kingston Trio. Fantastic stuff. Really underappreciated folk group. This album has Tom Dooley on it, Freight Train, Sloop John B, Scotch and Soda. Just great stuff. I saw them probably 66 or so in a concert. They gave a great show, really did. Gave it all. So you always find their albums for less than $1 anywhere, or $1 or so. And if you find one in good condition, I would definitely check out one of the early Kingston Trio albums. Really wonderful stuff. Show an acoustic folk album. Well, they're all acoustic folk albums, but specifically, again, get a chance to show someone that people haven't shown yet, and it's a man named Julius Lester. Julius Lester was, again, part of the 60s folk revival. just accompanying himself on guitar. He has songs such as Cockroach Blues, Watch the Seagulls Fly, Walk on Little Girl, Staggerly, etc. Wonderful, big, rich baritone voice, great guitar player. He actually converted to Judaism and became a rabbi and ended up teaching religion at a university. I can't remember which university. It might have been Harvard or somewhere. He's from the Boston area originally. But anyway, he ended up teaching at university for the rest of his life, basically, teaching religion. But he put out a couple of folk albums, and this is a wonderful album on Vanguard Stereo. Just great stuff. So, again, not a lot of albums out there by him, but if you ever see Julius Lester, I urge you to check him out. Next is do an electric, showing an electric folk album. It's not quite electric, and it's not quite folk, but I'm choosing it. And it's the Jim Kweskin Jug Band. Again, there's a whole line, a history of jug bands, really starting off in the 1920s with the Gus Cannon Jug Band, and then the Jim Kweskin Jug Band, and then after them, the Love Spoonful were really influenced a lot by Jim Kweskin. And this is such a great, great album. They do Washington Valley Forge, Sweet Sue, Coney Island Washboard, just great stuff. Jim Kweskin Jug Band, great stuff. Show a live album. I had to choose this one because this is the Weavers live at Carnegie Hall, the reunion concert from May 1963, and I was at this concert. I was 13 years old. My parents took me to this show. My parents were friends with a man who produced the Weavers and was also the head of the Woody Guthrie Foundation. His name is Harold Leventhal, and they were friends with him and his wife, and we got tickets. We went to the show. I got to go backstage afterwards to the after party and met Pete Seeger and everybody else, and there were all sorts of kids running around backstage afterwards, and I'm sure that one of those kids had to be Arlo Guthrie, because he's like a year older than me, so he was like 14 or so, and this was a big event, this reunion concert at Carnegie Hall. So I'm pretty sure he must have been there. And they're the Weavers at Carnegie Hall, Part 2, 1963. Next is, Electric Live, show up to 3 folk labels. Okay, so the first one I'm going to show is, I just showed, but I'll show it again, is Vanguard. But this is the original, or the older maroon label, Vanguard. And this is Mike Seeger, who's Pete Seeger's half-brother. Mike Seeger was in the New Lost City Ramblers, and Mike could basically pick up any stringed instrument and become master of it within a very short period of time. Amazing musician, and this is a great, great album. Accompanying himself on guitar, banjo, dulcimer, fiddle, auto harp, and French harp. Mike Seeger. Definitely recommend, if you like that folk music stuff, Mike Seeger. Any of his albums are great. Really happy to be able to grab onto this one. And then the next one, these are 2 more labels. This one, of course, I got a story with. When we used to go to Greenwich Village and hang out in the 60s, one of the places we'd always go was the sandal shop. There was a guy there who made sandals. And he was a musician, and everybody hung out there and played music. You'd go into the sandal shop, and there would always be 2 or 3 people with guitars and fiddles and banjos playing music and hanging out. And he recorded an album, or a couple albums, and this one is the one I have, and the guy's name was Alan Block. This is a really great album. Fiddle player, alive and well, and fiddling. And this is on the Living Folk Records label, which I had never seen before. But there it is. So we'd go to his store, his shop, and you'd hang out, and everyone would be playing music. And he had a daughter, a little girl, who was there and played guitar, etc. And she grew up, and she got a career, and her name is Rory Block. And she does much more blues than folk. But again, it's all folk music. So this is Rory Block, and this is album High Heel Blues, signed by Rory, which is sort of cool. And this is on Rounder Records. I'm sure you all know Rounder. Whenever I see a Rounder record, I always grab it because it's usually folk, Americana, blues, great label with great stuff. There's Rory Block. Show up to 3, I show protest songs, bonus points if you do it for different decades. So I'm doing 4 decades, starting with the 50s. In the 1950s, I'm doing with Pete Seeger, Talking Union, with the Almanac Singers, with Pete Seeger and chorus. The Almanac Singers was Pete Seeger, Woody Guthrie, and some other friends. This was originally released in 1955. This is a later recording. It's taped up, but I didn't care. I was happy to have it. This is on the Folkways. It's regular Folkways label we've all seen. And here they do songs such as We Shall Not Be Moved, Roll the Union On, Solidarity Forever, The Union Made, Which Side Are You On? All great union protest songs. That's the 1950s. 1960s, there was so much to choose from, but I decided to go with Tom Paxton with his album Ain't That News. And the song I'm picking is Goodman, Schwerner, and Cheney, who were 3 civil rights workers who were murdered in Mississippi in 1964, I want to say. And the song is, he says here, 3 men I never met and 3 more martyrs. The killers, to the surprise of no one, are free and are heroes to their friends. They really thought they did the right thing, and for that reason, this song is dedicated to them as well. Also on the album, Lyndon Johnson Told the Nation, which is great. The Willing Conscript, Buy a Gun for Your Son. Great, great protest songs. Great songs from Tom Paxton. Ain't That News. 1970s. Not folk music, but it is protest song. I couldn't not do it. John and Yoko, and the song is Power to the People. Or I could have chosen Woman is the Nigger of the World. Either way, John and Yoko, 1970s protest songs. 1980s, Utah Phillips. Don't know if you know Utah Phillips, big union man. That's what he does for most of his life, singing songs about the unions. And this is, sings the songs and tells the stories of the international workers of the world. Used to be called the Wobblies. They believed in one big union, that all these other unions, AFL-CIO, all these unions should all come together as one big union. And the more people, the bigger the union, the more power you would have against the bosses. This album has great songs on it. Dump the Bosses Off Our Backs, The Popular Wobbly, Casey Jones, The Union Scab, Joe Hill, Hallelujah, I'm a Bum, and of course he does also Solidarity Forever. Utah Phillips. Show an album of someone who has been blacklisted. Now, she was blacklisted. It was sort of a subtle blacklist. It wasn't like the 50s blacklist. And it was Buffy Sainte-Marie. Buffy Sainte-Marie was a native of Canada, of native tribes, came down to America, sang a lot of songs that really upset a lot of people, which were fantastic songs. Until the Time You Have to Go, On the Banks of Red River, Red Roses, Welcome Home, Emigre. Very much a protest singer. The United States wouldn't renew her visa, and she basically couldn't travel and play in the United States for many, many years, which sort of put a real damper on her career, because the United States is where the population and the people were you could perform and make money. She ended up staying in Canada for many years. I assume she toured Europe also, but Buffy Sainte-Marie, fantastic voice. And her big song was Now That the Buffalo's Gone, on her album It's My Way. And that's one you should definitely check out if you don't know it. Buffy Sainte-Marie. All right. Blacklisted. Show a British folk single, artist, or duo. I'm going with the great John Renbourn. And this is his album, The John Renbourn Sampler, Volume 2, So Clear. So it's a sampler of all his stuff. There's John. And this has Lady Goes to Church, So Clear, The Lady and the Unicorn, from all his other albums. The Cuckoo from Pharaoh Annie, which I have. Country Blues from Pharaoh Annie. Great. John Renbourn. An English band. I don't have that many really. I thought I had more, but I spent some time looking and I didn't have much. I thought I had more than or maybe I have them filed somewhere else, but I couldn't. Anyway, I went with the Incredible String Band. They were the band all us hippies in the 60s used to listen to all the time. This is their album, Liquid Acrobat as Regards the Air. Absolutely love them. Love the Incredible String Band. Very unique take on folk music. This is on Elektra from 1972. I remember Robbie Williams was one of them. Look at the names of the band. Robin and Heron, right? Mike Heron. Anyway, Incredible String Band. That's my English band. Show a folk rock album. So a band I mentioned before, I'm going to show them. This is a 10-inch that I picked up God knows where. And it's the Love Spoonful. Daydream, Did You Ever Have to Make Up Your Mind, Darling Be Home Soon, Nashville Cats, Summer in the City, Rain on the Roof, etc. Always loved the Love Spoonful. Got to see them once, actually, right at the end, right before they broke up. They opened up for Judy Collins in Queens in the Singer Bowl, and it was a great show. But the last show before Zal was sent back to Canada, or went back to Canada. The Love Spoonful. That's my folk rock band. Show a folk song covered by a rock band. So it's a song I mentioned before. Give you a little preview of what's to come. And the song was Sloop John B, and the album is Pet Sounds. I looked it up. So the song Sloop John B was first put in print in 1916. Later done once that I know of by, God, I'm losing it. Poet. Carl Sandburg, thank you. Carl Sandburg put out an album in the 40s or 50s of American songs, and he did Sloop John B. So I knew the song from the Kingston Trio. This is their version, the Beach Boys version, Sloop John B. Everybody knows that version. Show a Dylan song done by another artist. One of the guys I loved, used to see him all the time at the Cafe Go-Go. He always opened up for the Blues Project, and it's Richie Havens. And on this album, Mixed Bag, he does Just Like a Woman, which is a fantastic interpretation of Just Like a Woman by Richie Havens on his album Mixed Bag. Show your favorite album cover, folk album cover. I got a lot that I like. But again, folk album covers are not like jazz album covers where they really spend a lot of time working the style of the cover. But this one I love. And it's Ian Tyson from Ian and Sylvia. And it's his album Old Corrals and Sagebrush. A great, great album. And I love that cover. Yes, the back ain't bad either. But yeah, if you don't know Ian and Sylvia, another great duo act, and his solo stuff is fantastic too. Ian Tyson. And the last one, show or tell us about your favorite folk song. I'm not going to be able to play it because I don't have that ability to do that where I am right now. It's a big to do, so I'm just going to show it. And it's the mayor of Greenwich Village, Dave Van Ronk, on his album Folk Singer. And of course, I'm going with Cocaine Blues, one of the great versions of that song ever. Dave Van Ronk, the mayor. All right, so that's my folk tag 2021. I hope you all enjoyed that. I got another video to do. I have a lot of new records to show, but it's become a real pain in the ass to make videos. I got to move chairs. I got to get a table. I got to set things up. I got to bring more light into the room. It's just such a hassle. So I may be another week or so before I get together to redo this room to shoot a video. Okay, folks. I hope everybody stays well, stays safe, and until we see you again, peace.